Hi, I'm Todd Malcolm, head coach of NoLimitsTriathlon.com, and today I have a special interview with Jeff Symonds. Jeff Symonds just recently won IronMan Melbourne, and he's taken some time out of his busy schedule to chat with us. And I know many of you have given me questions to talk to ask Jeff for the answers, and we're going to get into it right away. So, Jeff, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. So, congratulations on your incredible win at Ironman Melbourne. That's fantastic. Now, that's your first Ironman win, correct?
Yeah,
Awesome.
first time I can call myself Ironman champion now, so it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Now, I know you've won challenge a couple times, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so uh, I got a bunch of questions. We'll just kind of rip through them quickly. When I went to Australia back in 2000, so a long time ago, and they have nicknames for everything, right? They shorten everything. All the words are shortened. Did you get a nickname when you were in Australia?
Uh, yeah, the guys in Bendigo, they kept calling me Joffer, and I
Jeff?
didn't know what it meant, but there's some story is it's kind of like a bad thing, but they were using it as a bad thing, but a joke, so it's a good thing. So
Okay.
that's what they called me, just kind of a spin off my name. But you're right, everything had nicknames, and I actually thought it was hilarious. And they like nicknames with O's at the end of them, like Shorto or Griffo or two great athletes over there, and we'll use the E's like we would call someone like trying to think of a name that they use, like Belly instead of Luke Bell. Like we would do that, but we would never use O's. So it's
No.
kind of cool that they do that. And
Yeah.
even Salvation Army, they call it Salvos. That's
Salvos?
kind of weird.
Cool.
Yeah, or vegetarian, you call them Vegos.
Vegos.
And
Very
that's
good.
like it sounds like a derogatory term, but it's actually like that's just what they call themselves. So
Hey, did you happen to go see any footy matches when you were there?
no, no, I really wanted to. And we had one set up. They have this NAB Cup. It's kind of the preseason cup.
Yeah.
And there was a game the Thursday before the race, but we just got too busy and missed it. But
Next
yeah,
time.
everyone was stoked about it in Victoria.
It's huge down there, isn't it? It's like hockey up here, and you and I are both located in Canada. And I had a question at the end, but you know what? I'm going to ask you right now. Who are you cheering for now in the playoffs, NHL playoffs? Well, you
Too
know,
soon, Todd. Too soon.
I'm from Calgary. You're from Vancouver, so I'm assuming you're cheering for the Canucks.
I was definitely cheering for the Canucks. Yeah. So I was definitely cheering for Game 7. So
Yeah.
um, my thing is I always cheer for the underdog, and except the Canucks. The Canucks I always got to cheer for. But now that they're out, I'll have to take a look at it and see who I think is the least likely to win the cup, and then that will be my team. And sometimes when I'm watching sports, it can change part way through.
Okay. Yeah.
So I remember there was a football game last year. I think it was oh, I should remember this. It was Green Bay and the Seattle Seahawks. And I was cheering for Green Bay because I thought, didn't think they had a chance at winning. And then all of a sudden they got up really big. And then I switched to cheering for Seahawks because I was like, this will be an epic comeback. And I
Nice.
think that's just kind of how I'm wired as an athlete, but also how I'm wired as a sports fan as well.
Very cool. Now, so you did go to Australia. Now, what made you want to go over to Australia to train and race?
Well, my coach Kevin he's an Australian, I guess by birth, and so he'd always kind of mentioned it as a good place to go and to get out of the winter. And then we also wanted to make a push to try and qualify for Ironman Hawaii this year. And so to do that, we needed to get in an early season Ironman. And so IronMan Melbourne was the championship race, so it was an opportunity to qualify for Hawaii, but it was also a chance to get into just a really big competitive Ironman. And it's kind of one of the most competitive races outside of Kona, so it just seemed like the perfect one.
That's awesome. So, because you are the men's champion there, does that mean that you get to go to Kona?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first year where if you win one of the five regional championships, you get an automatic spot, or as the pros call it the golden ticket, and no matter what happens, I'm in for Hawaii. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and that's so fantastic. And so, in honor of that today, what I'm doing is I'm drinking from my IronMan Hawaii mug, and I actually have Kona coffee in here for you.
Nice, nice. I'm jealous. I just have coffee from up the road, but it's not the same.
If you were here, I would share it with you for sure. I got another cup upstairs for me. Um, the funny thing is I've got like 6 more cups of coffee of Kona coffee left. I'm a big coffee fan, and I know you are too. And whenever I run out of coffee, I get my athletes to bring it back for me, and so I don't need to do that now because I'm doing a camp in a month in 70.3. Would you ever consider doing the Honu 70.3 in Hawaii?
Yeah, I would have like 100%. I would have done it this year, but they've taken away the prize money from it,
Oh,
and so it's hard to. Um, it's kind of funny because it's like I still look at it and think I want to do that. Just like Victoria 70.3 doesn't have any prize money or any pro field, and it's races that I want to do. But it's I guess as your fellow athletes, you want to support the races that are supporting the fellow pros for me. So
fair enough.
so unfortunately I'm not able to do it. But it's like I looked at the timing and it's like. I'm doing a kids camp the week before, and I'm doing the Great White North camp the week after, and it was like, that'd be perfect.
Uh,
From here, it's like an easy flight, but I love Kona, but yeah, unfortunately, I can't do it. So
So I did Kona back in 2008, and I found it so hard and so windy, and that's why I like doing the 70.3. Is I get a week of training and getting used to the wind. So will you be going over to the island and getting some training in?
yeah, absolutely. For me, I think, or for me, the biggest thing is getting used to that heat. I find I do really, really well in heat when I'm acclimatized for it, and I struggle just a little bit when I'm not acclimatized. And whatever that is, I just seem to respond well to training in the heat. And so I'm gonna try and get out there. Try and be 5 weeks before, maybe go the week after Challenge Penticton. Head out there, and whether that's try and go to Maui or maybe Kona, just figure out who has a condo that have
Sure.
an extra room for me, and yeah, and get some training. And I'd love to try and get hooked up with somebody else during the race. Maybe I'll talk to Brent McMahon or something and try and join forces. So
Has
we'll
he already
see.
qualified?
His spot isn't automatic, but I think he's got enough points that he's pretty good. Like
Okay.
he'll be going. So told me he's gonna do IronMan Brazil, the regional championships at the end of May, and so that's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited for him, and pretty excited just to see. We've got great guys, Trevor Wertel in BC himself, and we've got just guys on the local scene. That Elliot Holtham won an Ironman last year, and just all these guys that are just passionate about the sport, working hard, and making it happen. So we could talk about Canada as a whole too, but I like to focus on the BC guys because they're the guys that I've kind of grown up racing against. So
Well, sure. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Like when you look at Canada and for Ironman athletes, it's not just one, it's not just you. It's quite a handful of guys that are not just good, but they're really good, right? And so when you guys all go to Kona this year, I hope you all get to go. It's going to be like, who are we going to cheer for, right? We're going to be going for the Canucks for sure, but it's going to be nice to see. It's going to be a strong Canadian contingency going towards the top, I think. So it's gonna be fun to see because we haven't had a guy at the top of Kona in a long time.
yeah, it's definitely hasn't been, and I don't know to say we're going to be at the top is we don't want to get too carried away, but
I'm getting
I
carried
think
away right now. I think you guys are gonna be at the top.
I'm pretty excited just for the fact that I'm hoping these guys are thinking the same way, but we're setting ourselves up not just for like a big year this year, but it's like more that Canadians are going to be a force for the next decade, hopefully. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm just seems like we got a solid foundation, and it seems like just the way Canada embraces and supports its pro athletes. I think we're just set up really well.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that's smart thinking too. So thinking in the long term. Okay, let's move
I
on.
think Canadians are nice guys too. So I was gonna write an article at some point why the Canadians are going so fast, and I think that was gonna be like the number one reason was that like all these guys, Brent and Trevor and Elliot and pretty much everyone that I've met that's involved with the Canadian long distance scene. Not to just focus on the BC guys, but I just know them better. But they're all really nice guys, and I think in triathlon you know any age grouper knows like it's you need help along the way
Oh yeah.
and you need to make sacrifices and I think when you're nice people that people are more willing to help you and get you to where you need to be.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah, it absolutely pays to be nice. Um, so you went to Australia, and when I get my athletes to do a key race, I always get them to do stepping stone events. And so for you, I look at what you did, and you started off with Challenge Melbourne, and then you did the Geelong 70.3. Now, those are both really good races for you. So can you tell me a little bit about both of those races?
Yeah, it was exactly like you're saying. It was stepping stone races and so we came into them. Did challenge Bahrain in December 6th, which was a really went well for me and was a really cool event. And then we took a bunch of time off. And I wasn't that stoked on taking time off, but we took I think it was 2 weeks of not doing anything, or maybe it was a week of not doing a single minute of training. And then it was I think 3 weeks essentially of one thing a day for less than an hour. And so for me, that was like I was losing my mind, and I thought, I had this fitness. It was the end of season break. I lost it all, and so we started back up. We were supposed to start up around New Year's, but I got strep throat, so we started back up just after New Year's, and so I had about 3 weeks of kind of getting back into training before the first race,
Yeah.
and so I wasn't sure that how it was all going to go. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel. And you're coming into racing the Australians who are in like full mid swing of their summer. They're all in fighting form. Everything's dialed in, and we're getting our equipment, new equipment, and all this stuff. And so I wasn't sure how it would go, but my coach was like, "No, do this. Doesn't really matter how you go. It's all for the preparation. It's going to enhance your preparation towards the big race, Melbourne." And so we did the first race, and it was, it was only I'd been there about 4 days, so it was still have a bit of like jet lag and a little plane rust, but the race went quite well. It was pretty much Vancouver winter conditions. It was cold and rainy, and just the waves were unbelievable. And like this
Wow.
is one thing I want all the age groupers to take away is that the waves were just massive, and all the age groupers there, they were all like, "Yeah, okay, we're gonna do this." Like, it's not ideal, but no one was losing their mind, no one was running away. It was just they were ready for it, and I think that was the biggest thing I took away from that race. But yeah, so the races actually went surprisingly well, and it was a great confidence builder for me, knowing that it was okay to have taken that time off, and it was okay to have let my body just kind of recover and and rest, which I think a lot of people, doesn't matter if you're a pro or an age grouper, you just don't want to step back and take that time to recover sometimes. So
Yeah, one of my common phrases I like to use to tell people that rest is good, right? You have to remind yourself, rest is good because we do get so used to just going, 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 and then when something or someone tells you to stop, you're like, I don't want to, but rest is really good and it does help you recover. Okay,
yeah,
let's move on
totally.
to the
Yeah,
next one.
sure. And then I was gonna say
Oh,
I did the Geelong 70.3 right after that,
oh, sorry, yeah.
and so I never done two half Ironmans back to back. And so I basically slept the entire week in between. And but it's really nice to be able to take what I'd learned and all the mistakes I'd made in the first one and apply that to the second one. So although physically I wasn't quite as good, or there's no way I could have been as physically as good maybe for the second one, you're carrying a bit of fatigue. But I think through just execution and just kind of learning, I was able to hit that second one even better. It's just really good preparation to know where I'm at and also know where I need to go for the Ironman.
And there were some big names in both of those races, right? Like Craig Alexander won the first one, right?
Yeah, and it's cool. I mean, Craig Alexander's he's the guy that I look up to, so it's always cool when he's at the race. So
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't like I was going into small fields. It was I was just throwing myself right into the fire, and I think that made it the perfect kind of test to see where I was. I also like to have a race heading into the last block, so you know exactly where you're at, and you're not kind of comparing yourself to am I as good as my best, and you're trying to think about am I going to get there? Am I going to get there? You know your baseline, and you're just building on that, and then the focus becomes every day I'm getting a little better than that was, and it's just that positive energy that I find just really works well. So I'm glad I didn't I took the chance and raced even when I felt underprepared. So
Fantastic. Now, what did you take away from the Geelong? Do you pronounce it Geelong or Geelong?
they do it more like Geelong,
Oh, there you go. Wasn't even close. So,
I think.
what did you take away
My
from that
Aussie
race?
accent isn't very good still. I took away from that it was I think more than anything it was all the little things that I'd done to execute better. It was just uh trying to remember now exactly what they were, but it was everything from like where do you put the Vaseline on your shoes. I'd worked on the transitions a bit more because I was a bit sloppy there. Um, the pacing on the run, the nutrition aspect. I wasn't used to some of the Australian sports drinks they had down there, and so just finding a nutrition plan that was going to work for me, and which meant not taking as much on course and carrying a bit more, but carrying a bit more nutrition with me, and just getting all those kind of little things dialed in, and just confidence probably more so than anything. Finding I biked maybe a touch too hard, but figuring out where that limit is, and yeah, there's also a big confidence booster, knowing I could back it up going from the 1 week and then being able to recover and execute a good race the next weekend. Just kind of said, okay, I'm probably in pretty good shape.
And then you had about 6 weeks until Ironman, right?
Yeah, yeah, 6 weeks exactly.
Yeah. And so then, did you have any epic rides or epic adventures when you were within that 6 weeks?
Uh, yeah, it was. I don't know if epic's the right word. It was more solid, and I
Solid.
think I kind of took that approach that that everything is trying to be solid. You don't want to do anything one day that's gonna really tear you down for the next couple of days, and so yeah, everything was just solid. And there were some good rides, no doubt, and there's a good training group out there in Bendigo, and it went well. Some runs. There was one run where it was like 37 degrees out that I got out on this trail, and I just cooked, absolutely cooked. And I remember I was supposed to run 2 hours and 15 minutes, and at 2 hours I got back to this park and I was done. And grabbed these two, like they called them like fruit smoothies or something, but it was just sugar and water. And I bought two of them and just walked home with these
Uh,
massive sugary drinks. And um, I don't think that made me any fitter, but it might have made me a little tougher. So
so, who did you stay with when you're down there?
stayed with I kind of couch surfed with a couple of guys in Melbourne the first 2 weeks. One guy that I'd known through a guy that lives out here, Darren Mealing was his name, and he's very connected in the Australian tri scene. So he was able to put me in touch with this a guy Monty, and then him with his friend Steven. So it was cool to be staying with other triathletes. And
Cool.
then I went up to Bendigo and stayed with um, I got set up through another pro, Leon Griffin. He set me up in a house, so I was in a house for 3 weeks, and then a family took me in. They had a young guy that's an up and comer triathlete, and I stayed with them for the last week and a half. So I was moving all around. It was a little bit transient, but it was kind of cool. I got to meet some good people, and yeah, just kind of kept things positive and kept things rolling.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's move on to the next question here. This is from Kent, and Kent's asking you, what is your favorite Ironman course? Now, I'm going to make that a little bit different. Instead of saying Ironman, I'm going to say, what is your favorite iron distance course?
Of the ones that I've done, I like the Penticton course. When you're looking at a course itself, that just seems to be the best. Just gives you. I love the bike. I love the swim. I love a one transition where you can just go the day before, drop all your stuff off. It's all there. The logistics are nice and easy, and I just love swimming in the lake. That lake, Okanagan Lake, is where I grew up, and but the ride is, I think, what makes it really special. And I love that just the way you get so many changing things. Like you've got flat, fast sections, you got some longer climbs, you got some rollers. It just keeps it interesting, but at the same time, it's not super technical. So you're not always like, um, there's not a lot of stress of, you know, cornering and all that kind of stuff. It just the whole thing just seems to flow. And then I like a lonely run. So that run was quite good. I just find that anytime the conditions are tougher or less, I don't know, less favorable, maybe, or I just take positive energy out of that and just love that knowing that this might be cracking someone else, whether it's the heat, whether it's if it's rainy or windy or hilly,
Yeah.
or lonely, whatever it is. I like that stuff as possible. So
Well, I think then you're going to do well in Kona if you like that, because Kona has all
uh,
those elements.
I'm definitely gonna love Kona. I love that course, and like I said, that I think that's what makes it so special is that it's just the hardest possible conditions imaginable. So I'm looking forward to it for that reason.
Yeah, before we started recording this, I mentioned that I want to go next year to Spain to do a training camp in Barcelona, followed up with Lanzarote Ironman, and that's a tough course too. Maybe you can add that to your bucket list down the road.
Yeah, I've heard it's definitely on the bucket list. We'll see. See, I'd love to do Challenge Roth out there as well. So
Yeah, that
I don't know
sounds.
if that's a tough course, but it's just epic. So it'd be cool to at some point do.
I agree. Okay, let's move on to another question. This is actually from me. When you're traveling with a bike case, I know you travel a lot. Do you take a hard or soft case?
I use a soft case. Um, just it's a little easier to pack and get around, and I've knock on wood, but I've had good experiences with it so far in the past. So I
Okay.
find that one thing that I really like is I found with the hard cases that you do a really good job packing it in, cramming it, locking it down, and then you'd get to wherever your destination was, and it had been mispacked, and the TSA guys had they'd open it up and didn't put the same care. But I
Right.
also like the soft ones. You can oftentimes squeeze in an extra wheel set. So,
Ah,
if you're going to train somewhere a bit more, you can take two sets of wheels and have a backup.
very cool. Now, what's your favorite answer when people at the airport ask you, "Hey, what's in that bag?"
Uh, whatever gets me the cheapest airline ticket. So, but
Fair enough.
I always say bike. As much as I want to try and not pay anything, I'd rather if they're directly asking me, I'd rather give them the honest answer so that if something goes wrong, then they'll cover it. So.
I think I'm more asking not from the agents, but when you're going through the airport, like I get people always looking at me, kids especially, go, "What the heck? You see the size of that bag?" And they're always asking me, and I just, I get kind of tired of it, but sometimes they come up with goofy answers, right? Um, but does
Yeah,
that
you're right.
must happen?
Everybody
It's
does
got to
have
happen to
fun.
you. It has to happen to everybody, I think. People are amazed that someone has a piece of luggage that big.
Yeah, and I think they're feeling good that they're not the one traveling with that massive piece of luggage.
No kidding. Okay, so this question here is from Courtney. And so she is doing Challenge Half this year. So she's super pumped to be racing in your hometown. And her question is around nutrition. And so what do you want on the days leading up to, the morning of, and during the race? Now I know that's a really big question, but maybe like if you could summarize it in a nutshell.
Sure, yeah. Usually I keep my diet pretty normal leading up to the race, and then 2 nights before. So if the race is on Sunday, it'd be Friday night. That's when I do like a big carbo loading, usually a pasta dinner. And then the day before is when I start to switch to um, just kind of stuff that's going to be easy on my stomach, low fiber foods. Stay away from, I don't eat too many vegetables the day before the race. It's all just kind of like simple calories, and especially that last meal, I always have uh, plain chicken and white rice. So that's like the pre-race meal, and
Okay.
I know Brent McMahon has the same one because I saw him shopping for it one time.
Yeah.
And then race morning, it's always two vanilla crisp power bars and three packs of maple brown sugar instant oatmeal.
Yeah.
And I'll have that about 3.5 to 3 hours before the gun goes off. And then I'll usually have a bottle of, I'll have a coffee about an hour before, and I will have a bottle of Perform, usually leading up, and then finish it off about 15 minutes before the race. And then during the race, I try and shoot for around um, 90 grams of carbohydrates an hour. And so usually, and I try and get that from sports drinks or gels. And I go for 90 if it's you can get a mix of this is getting a little technical, but if you can get a mix of glucose and fructose, because your body can absorb more sugars. So if you have multiple sugar sources, so I find a sports drink that has that, and if not, I'll carry some gels, or if it's just Gatorade you're relying on, I'll try and shoot for maybe only 60 grams of that. So
Okay.
a technical answer, but yeah, it's all sports drinks and gels, and I don't worry about any proteins or fats. It's just I find it's hard on the stomach, and the science is you'll never digest it. So, and for me, I never get bored of it. So, and I also try and make sure everything I eat on the bike is I can eat with one hand. So,
Okay.
it just makes it easy, fast, and safe.
Now, I noticed because you did a lot of question and answers on Slow Twitch, and you have your nutrition laid out for everybody to see. You had a lot of strawberry banana gels.
Yeah.
Are you sick of those yet?
Uh, well, I don't think I've had one since, but I never get sick of them during the race. I
Okay.
find that it's just one day. It's more just the food is fuel. I think I'm trying to take that outlook all the time, but yeah, I definitely didn't get sick of them. So it's just that particular one is just easy to go down. It's a little bit more liquidy than some of the other gels,
Yeah.
and it just has that good mix of carbs, sodium, and a little bit of caffeine, but not a
Okay.
ton of caffeine.
Okay. Let's move on to this is from Anthony, and so we could even kind of go to where you are right now. What does your typical training week look like? So, are you doing like lots of multiple workouts per day? Like, so for this week, you don't have to go in detail, but just kind of like what are you doing this week?
Um, this week's a little bit easier, but I guess a typical week would be um, probably 5 swims, 5 rides, and 5 runs a week.
Okay.
And then that's kind of spread out over the week, and some of those might be shorter workouts, but that's pretty consistent. And I think a big week might be 25 or 26 hours of training. Average typical week, hard week might be more around 21, 22, and a recovery week might be around 15 hours maybe, 13 or 14 or 15. And it's nothing crazy. There's not any like crazy long rides, I wouldn't say. I think the max I ride is probably maybe I've done 6 hours. Yeah, I've done 6 hours a few times, but there isn't anything like some people like to say they're like 8 hours on the bike. I've never done anything like that. And runs would be, the max would be I think 2 hours and 45 minutes. So
And do you take a day off, like with no activity at all?
usually there's 2 easy days. Sometimes there's a pure day off. Sometimes it'll just be like a swim or an easy bike.
Okay.
But usually Mondays and Fridays are pretty easy.
Now, you mentioned the 6 hour bike ride. So, if there's a lot of people that are doing Ironman or an Iron distance for the first time this year. So, what do you recommend? Like, a lot of them get this in their mind, they got to do this massive amount of volume to be able to complete an Ironman. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
Um, yeah, I guess I don't think you need massive amounts of volume. I do think, there is something about doing the whole 180 before race day. I don't think you need to do it every week or every time. You just need to, I think it's just good to do it once just to get your brain wrapped around that idea, and also just to really sort out any potential issues that might come up, whether that's clothing or nutrition or but I think so yeah, and that's kind of when I was heading into my first Ironmans, I kept having this theory that I need to be able to like back up, good ride after good ride, do all these good rides, big rides to be ready for race day. And then based on the last few Ironmans that I've done, it's like you just need to be able to do it on race day. And
Yeah.
I think um yeah, so it's good for confidence, but yeah, I don't know. I'd have to ask someone else from a training effect. I think there's a point where you're kind of doing more damage than good. So
Okay.
and I definitely feel that way about the long runs, for sure.
Okay. Now this question, this is a good question. Um, this is from Nelson. He says, if the Melbourne Ironman was like the Masters, you ever watch golf?
Yep.
Yeah, so Masters from and in the Masters, so the past year's champion gets to select the pre-race dinner for the following year. Have you heard of that? The champions dinner?
No, no, I haven't.
Okay,
That's a
so
good idea.
if you go back to Melbourne and if this was like the Masters, you would be the champion, and the people that have already won the race would be, selected to have dinner with you. And so, but you get to choose what's on the menu. So, what would everybody be eating for the champions dinner?
Oh, I'd probably keep it Canadian. There'd be like maple syrup and pancakes for dinner. So
With a little bit
it
of
would be
back
really,
bacon.
it would be really cheesy. Like, not cheesy from cheese food, but it would be really corny. Might be a better way of saying it. But yeah, that's probably what I would do. And then there'd be a little bit of white rice and chicken for me to actually eat.
That's right. That's awesome. Okay, let's move on to another question. Okay, so I read about this for you where you said when you were talking about probably the last part of the race where you said it kind of felt surreal feeling because not only have you dreamt about winning a big race like this, but you mentally rehearsed the emotions of it during long training runs. So when it actually happened, it felt like deja vu, yet just a dream. So it's kind of weird. It was more the commitment to coming over to Australia, working hard, and laying an awesome last training block. So the journey, not destination. So for me, when I read that, it seemed like you're doing a lot of visualization when you're training. So you're dreaming about, well, how would this feel if I would win and things like that. So, do you have any specific things you do when you visualize?
Um, I don't know. I guess specific. I don't know if that's the right way to think about it, but it's more just when I'm out on my training sessions, I try and make them as deliberate and as much like the race situations as possible. And so when I'm out there, yeah, you are just trying to think about the situations that you might find yourself in, and then think about how you want to respond. And I find that you're just able to emulate those emotions and practice and get in that moment of this is what a race feels like. This is what I want to train for.
Okay.
And I find it just really carries over to race day. And so I think it would be different. The specifics of it would be different, depending on the situations that I think I'll find myself in or that I want to be in versus, someone that's maybe goal is just to finish. They might have different situations that they'll want to prepare for, but
Yeah.
I think it's good. I think everyone can kind of, work on that where someone has passed them early in the bike and they're just like letting them go and they're like
Right.
just really like strengthen that in their mind of not getting carried away doing someone's crazy race strategy and just doing their own thing. So
Focus on themselves, right? Now,
yeah.
when you're in a race, we all have mantras we like to say to ourselves, right? So helps encourage us, help motivate us, and help keep us going. You want to share a couple of your favorite mantras?
Yeah, I guess on the run, like I'm always just thinking relaxed and flying, your pace, negative split. And it's always just, thinking relaxed to kind of not be too tense. Flying just is kind of something about, feeling good, but not like, grinding it, just letting it kind of flow and go fast. And then just your pace is just that kind of doing what you need to do, not working about the guys up the road, just being in that moment. And then negative split is all just making sure that you can finish hard and that you're not going too hard at the start. And I'm just repeating that over and over and over again. And, it starts off as the cues and what you want to think about, but then it also, when you've trained with it so many times, it just kind of gets you in that moment and kind of brings that positive energy.
Cool. Okay, so I got a good question here that just came to me today. Now, where did I put it? Just give me a moment here. You know what? It's gone, but it's the question is from Ian's wife, Kendall, and she heard something about you doing an interview a while ago, and something about a lost wallet. And if you
Oh yeah.
found your wallet, you would do something. And so she's very curious if you found your wallet. Do you want to shed some light on that, or?
Uh, yeah, I left my wallet at the guy's house I was staying at in Melbourne, and it did come back to me, but I haven't bought the piece of jewelry yet
Okay.
that I need to, but that might happen today, so it's top secret.
Okay, so yeah, that's it. I won't say any more. I,
That's it. That's it.
I won't
Yeah.
post. I won't post this video for a few more days. So we're keeping it on the down low. But
Yeah.
I do wish you the best of luck with that journey as well. Okay, let's move on to
All
something
right.
else here. Okay, so in my brick class, we do every Saturday we do a bike run class, and we always joke about things like you can do anything for X amount of time, right? So say if we got one more interval, it's only 6 minutes. You can do anything for 6 minutes. Do you ever say something like that in training? Like it's only an hour, it's only 30 minutes, or give it all you got?
Uh, yeah, definitely I do. Especially, with the short intervals where it's like it's only 2 minutes. Like if you're an Ironman, like you can go this far. It's only 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you're constantly making trade-offs and trying to frame everything into positive. So
I even do that in an Ironman. I go, you know what? It's only one day. You can do anything for a day, and then you get to rest the rest of the week or something, right? I just break it down to little measurable chunks your brain can handle.
yeah,
Um,
and even at the end of the Ironman, I was like, it's only 30 minutes left. Like you never have to do this again if you don't want to. So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that's the beauty of the sport is that you always want to do it afterwards. So
Hey, have you ever, when I finished IronMan Hawaii, I remember sitting on the ground saying, why would I ever, 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 ever want to do that again? Have you ever said that to yourself when you finished a race? You would,
yeah, definitely afterwards. Like
yeah,
after my first Ironman, I was like, that was really epic.
yeah,
I don't know if I ever want to do that again,
yeah.
but that was really epic. And then even after like this one where it was like, this unbelievable race in Melbourne and they're asking you like, so does this mean Ironman Hawaii? And I was like, I don't even want to think about doing that all over again. Like ask me tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, but I think as endurance athletes or as human beings, we always forget the bad. And so like I'll look back on it now and say, oh, you know what? That wasn't so bad actually. I probably could have gone a lot faster. And then I see the video of myself and it's like, oh yeah, no, no, that
No,
was that was the max.
no. Um, people comment on your running form, so your head bobbles a lot. And I saw something about someone asked, "Are you going to get one of those bobbleheads?" Which it's kind of funny, right? It's kind of funny because you kind of bobble with your head when you're running, and you'd have a bobblehead.
This way, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Mike Brown that owns Great White North, he wants to get some bobbleheads printed up for the race, so I think that might be a bit strange, but oh,
Oh,
whatever. I will embrace it.
and that brings me back to sort of the other question. I found it, and this is from Ian, and it says he remembers you racing at Great White North a year or two ago. You and Grant Burwash looked like the only two who were racing. Everyone else looked like they were just going for a leisurely jog. You look like you were in high zone 4 on the run, and that was near the end. So he says it would be nice to know how you do that. How you're
Like
able to
go
run,
that.
in that high of a zone in a race.
Um, I don't know. I guess maybe it's training or experience, but I guess the first lap you're taking it easy and not taking it easy, but that last lap, I always try and make sure that that's like the hardest point of the race. And I find that if you go too hard during other points of the race, especially, on the first 5K of the run, then you just don't have the energy to work that hard in the end. You're just too tired to make that the hardest and hurt the most. So I guess pacing and
Okay.
just saw me at a good moment maybe, but yeah, in training I guess as well. So
I looked at your splits at Ironman Melbourne, so they have it for running, and I don't think it's consistent where they break it down, but the first one you're over 4 minutes per kilometer, right? So it's relatively slow, right? And everything else is in the threes. And so I was wondering, well, what happened in that first little bit? Like, did you consciously slow yourself down the pace? Like, when you get off the bike and your transition was super quick, like it's under a minute, right? So you're on the run course right away. Is there something that you do to keep yourself in the correct pace? Like, do you watch your pace on your watch, or do you go by feel, or what do you do in that first kilometer or two off the bike?
I just go by feel, and I'm just trying to settle in and go with how I'm feeling and not try and force it. Just trying to go with the flow. And yeah, sometimes it's hard to tell by the splits. You don't know exactly where they're measuring or what, but yeah, it's just really trying to settle in and relax, and then go from there. So I am consciously trying to tell myself to slow down as much as possible at that in that first bit, just because I know that my emotions are going to be high, and I'm going to have the feeling to that I want to really crush it. So
Yeah.
usually I have to pee in the first little bit too, so that slows you down quite a bit. But I don't remember if that was the case or not in Melbourne.
Okay, so this may be a getting ugly question, but if you gotta pee, are you peeing while you're running, or do you take the porta potty stop?
Yeah, pee while you're running.
Pee while you're
So
running. All right.
my coach recommends that. He says that you'll just feel like an animal. So
Feel like an animal. Make sure.
recommends a positive mental boost. So, but yeah.
And it's the same thing on the bike, right? You don't stop for the bike. You keep going on the bike.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But if you know there's a guy close behind you, it's usually good for him to pull to go in the back a little bit. So
Okay, good. Yeah, I like that advice. That's a good Canadian thing to do, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take you back to 2015 a little bit. And this is a question that I'm kind of curious about. I talked to you before you went, but the whole it wasn't Abu Dhabi. Where did you go to?
To Bahrain.
Bahrain. Yeah. How was Bahrain? How did you enjoy that experience?
It was cool. It was about as far away from Canada as you can possibly get, so it was a long trip back and forth. But it was basically it was the best triathlon money could buy. They just spared no expense, and they
Yeah.
just did everything was on this massive grand scale, and it was cool. Just the signage and just the way everything was run, and the Akon concert afterwards. It was all just really cool.
Would you go back?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
it was cool.
Okay. So, um, my bike, last year I made an upgrade on my bike and I got electronic shifting by Shimano. Um, do you use something similar to that?
Yep.
Yeah. What I like about it is so I got the shifters on the aero bars and on the levers. I just love it being on the levers. What's your favorite part about electronic shifting?
That's probably it, having the two, and then you're able to just be so much more in control, whether it's climbing or descending or, coming out of a corner, or
Yeah.
even when you're rolling around in traffic, you're never, you've always able to shift gears and accelerate. I just feel so much safer when I'm out there.
I think
So,
safety is a big thing. I wish all people had something similar to that. Instead of reaching forward on the bars, it just gives that added sense of security. So I wish at some point everyone has this kind of technology on their bike. Your next race, what do you got coming up?
I'm not too sure. Just kind of getting back into training right now, and yeah, pick something that sounds like fun. So
Cool.
whatever's something that's gonna help me get to Kona, right? So, or not get to Kona, but enhance that preparation. So I'll probably do some kind of an Ironman in the summer,
Yeah.
and not sure if it's an Ironman or a challenge, but we'll see what sounds motivating.
And I think you're going to be going out to challenge for sure, but you haven't decided if it's the full or the half or a team, right?
No, that's the cool thing about the race is that there's so many different events that I can plan on doing something there and having fun. So.
That's very cool. Yeah, I'm hoping to go out there and cheer people on as well. I'll be doing Whistler this year, so it was fun watching you race in Whistler last year. So if you go back and do that one, it'd be fun to cheer you on again.
Yeah, it
But
would be. I like that one. It's a nice course to train on, and a good hard bike ride. So
Very cool. Let me check in my list here, make sure I got all the questions through, and then we're gonna call it call it a day. Okay, so yeah, you don't have anybody for Stanley Cups yet. I was cheering for the Jets actually, the Jets,
oh yeah,
and they got out in four straight, which is too bad, but they put up a good fight. And now I'm cheering for Calgary because I live in Calgary, but also Canadians. So I like those teams as well. So Jeff, that's it for the day. I don't have any more questions for you. Thank you very much for joining us. It was very entertaining. We learned a lot, and so we wish you the best of luck in your races coming up. And I hope you have a wonderful experience in Kona.
sounds good. Thank you, and we'll see you around at the races.
Cool. So thank you very much, Jeff. See you later.
See ya.